Yep, I did. Didn't expect to actually do so with this movie, but I did. And I'm not exactly a stranger to doing so. I'm the type of guy that really likes to vote with his wallet. I boycott a lot of things. I boycott Nestle and as many projects I can that are connected to that monopoly. I boycott Bethesda because no amount of that No Man's Sky ripoff will make me forget the greed that came with Fallout 76. I recently started boycotting Twitter soon after that musky fellow hopped in with decisions, and even more recently I think I'm gonna start boycotting Twitch after its latest monetization backstabs. It's fine, I started streaming on YouTube anyway. And I boycott corporations that I can that I morally severely disagree with. I will be making a conscious decision to pirate DC's The Flash sometime in the future, since I will not be financially supporting a film that pedestals Ezra Miller. I would have been fine if you asked me about it a week ago, but actually giving them public press coverage by having them on the red carpet at your movie premiere? Are you serious, DC? I get that they're the upfront protagonists, so you can't exactly hide their existence on screen, or their other one, or in chunks of the marketing, but not choosing to hide them from press in the modern day and actively inviting them after their spree of unforgivable crime? With this, I'm never gonna financially support a DC movie again. They have made their affiliations clear, and I am boycotting this studio, at least until some major executive heads are replaced in probably like 2 years' time. But sometimes I pirate things out of other needs, namely accessibility. I made a video just like this 2 years ago with I pirated Scoob, and this is why, because it had no UK release date. No amount of search could tell me when this movie was to exist, and so I just had no other way of feasibly watching it. I have the same issue with pretty much everything on HBO Max. We don't have that in the UK. Our best alternative is Sky TV, which is a package deal that costs £26 a month and cannot be shaved down to a lower price. You have to get it included with a bunch of other stuff, and there's no other way around it. As far as I'm concerned, if an industry makes access to a product too difficult, such that pirating is the most convenient route, then that industry needs to adapt in order to accommodate, or fail at the hands of incompetence. Competition breeds innovation, right? So innovate.
If her father can't retire, it will be all embers.
Stop talking!
So what's going on with Elemental? Well, this movie released last Friday in the United States, but in the UK, this movie doesn't quite exist until the 7th of July. That's a half a month delay between regions. Why? Well, because different distributors are assigned to regions, I'm sure. And I believe it is an outdated system that warrants foregoing. I'm not gonna die on this hill. It's a bit more morally neutral compared to the right to water and let's celebrate this actual criminal, but my job now is to review movies. Part of the success of this line of work is urgency and getting something out on time. If I am delayed witnessing this movie by 2 weeks, my audience ain't gonna care after all of that time. Especially with the advent of the internet speeding up communications of everything. I don't have that kind of time to waste. And we don't need to rely on archaic forms of time dilation between landmasses to see a movie. If anything, it's one of the rare positives for plugging a Pixar movie on streaming services. At least that way it comes out everywhere all at once. You think I actively want to watch this movie with the coloring all wrong, a constant advert for some casino website, mid-roll ads about said slots website interrupting me, and LeBron James's giant bobblehead over on the side of the screen? No, I don't want to watch a Pixar movie in this lower quality with kids kicking at chairs and shouting mid-screening.
Can I be that girl because...
Ooh, thought bubble. Maybe after dinner we...
Well, I'm sorry, child, you don't get to be her because she is a fictional character! When the movie does come out in the UK, I'll still buy a ticket. I'll pay my pirating fees when I can. And I guess in the future, start investing in those pricier public London movie premieres. Just would need a bit more time to realize the UK has a staggered release to usual next time. So yes, though it is only the following Thursday, I have in fact seen Elemental. Was it worth it? Actually, oh my god, yes it was! Obviously, I was coming into this movie skeptical as all hell. Why wouldn't I be? All of us were. But last video, I plugged up a pinned comment pointing out I hadn't seen it yet to get the consensus from you lot, and you all had a lot of praise for it. Surely this movie wasn't gonna be redeemable, right? How on earth were they gonna turn around from the clear, uninspired cliche fest at the festival that the trailer had exposed to us all? Well, it turns out whatever the marketing team over at Pixar were doing, they should count their blessings if they're not part of the 75 employees fired, because they were advertising for an entirely different movie.
Hey!
Oh, sorry. You're so hot.
Excuse me?
This movie isn't some basic Romeo and Juliet movie about a water guy and a fire girl. I mean, yeah, there is a romantic arc that continues along the whole movie, but there's so much more to the story going on here. This whole movie is an immigration movie. The entire city is built without fire people in mind. Ember's parents took the gamble to emigrate to these lands, and they were some of the first for their race. Across the years, they had all been getting the discrimination treatment in all sorts of forms, from glances in public spaces, to segregation at tourist locations, to an inability to rent due to the prejudices of landlords, to just the simple fact that the fire district has been unfortunately placed underneath a water train that sprays them with water constantly. This is a new spin on the Zootropolis-style society and teaching kids about discrimination in a digestible way, but done in a manner that is pretty damn good as a standalone piece. You've got your classic overt lines, I have to say you speak so well and clearly, to the more nuanced symbolism of culturalisms expanding out in the little fire district as more immigrants come in to represent the place. There's a whole beat about how the parents left their home country of Fireland to make this risky immigration and the sacrifices that comes with family. And practically none of this is prevalent in the trailer. With so many random scenes being previewed of this movie, I am stunned by the scenes that were chosen to express Pixar's writing, creativity, and style of humor, because they methodically picked every worst example, or just outright edited them to make it worse. Why didn't they feature the chase scene where Ember is chasing Wade through a narrow hallway, or sculpting glass to showcase some more interesting interactions with the elements? Why not the cool appearance of elements with like the blimp and the wind? There's all sorts of examples of really great integrations. Eating wood to re-heal, coughing out smoke, overexposed photos, water magnifying glass, incense fortune telling, welding metal shut. Did we see Ember do any of that in the trailers? Because it is everywhere. Every time she is around leaky pipes. Why did they show the sports crowd doing the wave, but completely negate the emotional swinging detail that they're doing so in order to bolster up the mood of little Lutz, who's a little distracted in his game because he's currently in mourning for his recently deceased mother? Way to increase the impact of a cool crowd interaction, and way to just skip it for the pun that's look, it's the wave. How's about that muscle joke in the trailer where Wade accidentally comes out all buff and shakes himself to be podgy again?
The pipe squished me all out of shape.
Dang.
That's better.
Oh.
Ember doesn't go oh here. That uninspired, worthless gag doesn't even get applied to the final version of the movie, and actively makes the presentation worse. And there's all the more examples that I will be explaining soon.
An act of God or an act of Claude?
By the way, you are halfway through the video and more movies are releasing. If you're up for more coverage, then come subscribe. Or come to the second channel if you want upcoming gaming related stuff. It's a side hustle.
This shop is dream of our family. Someday it'll all be yours.
It's clear that this is a Pixar production that has gone wrong somewhere in the admin of this movie, because the actual project is pretty great. Yeah, it has the emotional weight in places that maybe it could make you cry. It is creative and inspiring to see the uses of the Elemental Society that shows that Pixar is still leading with powerhouses of a writing department. I wouldn't exactly call it an instant Pixar classic, but I maybe could put it a step above the entire last however many years of Pixar work. Judging from public consensus, it really seems like the advertising campaign for this movie actively hindered the popularity of this movie. And not just for the content, this movie has been advertised for a good long while, it seems. I've heard anecdotally that some people thought this movie had long already released, and its actual standalone identity clearly was watered down to be noticed when it's actually out or not. Advertising was absolutely everywhere, and yet, because it was marketed in such a basic and cliche way, it was turning off everybody who didn't want to see something so by the numbers. Especially when considering its rivals were the likes of a new DC movie, new Marvel movie, new Spider-Man movie, and not too long ago, a new DreamWorks movie and the bloody Mario movie. Considering we're also all in a little bit of a financial crisis globally, lots of people and parents have got to pick and choose. And this is of course going to be the bottom of the priority list. People in the UK still don't know that this movie is a hidden gem yet. Hey, remember Claude? What was the point of Claude in the marketing? This little kid is irrelevant. They are in 2, maybe 3 scenes. They are not relevant to the plot, and just someone who pesters Ember as a kidly NPC. Not to mention, he's the product of a bygone and slightly creepy character cliche of flirting with someone who is dissonant to your current age range. It's kinda getting too late to call it cute when a little boy is flirting with an older woman, when the opposite is clearly not okay. And even worse by the fact that she doesn't establish any boundaries or teach this child or the children in the audience that this is actually inappropriate and not okay. And also, he's cringe. The joke of his character is that he is cringe in this movie, and the marketing department looked at this and said, we need to make this a thing. What were they thinking?
Watch this!
Oh, but what about the puns? This movie crammed in about as many puns as it could into every little dialogue that they chose to expose to us all, and the puns aren't even the best bit of any of the dialogue. Yeah, there is some, but it always feels more like an offhand comment to bolster up the sides, you know? Toyota is on the back of a logging truck. It's not the forefront of the comedy. That would be far too easy and stupid. In fact, the very fact that Ember's parents are called Bernie and Cinder is because the border control staff cannot understand their original names or even how to spell it. So he just comes up with new names on the spot, based entirely on their race. They just have to accept it without any questions in order to fit into this new land. Wow, that's such a piece of commentary right at the very start of the movie. And later on, the dad character still continues to speak in a broken form of the language, since that so clearly happens to those trying to learn a language later in life. Why not showcase a scene of the parents' trials and tribulations? We get some baby Ember in the marketing, but it's nothing without the messaging behind it. Well, how's about this for messaging? This line.
Why does anyone get to tell you what you can do in your life?
Oh my god, this has nothing to do with the plot of The Father! Clearly, the trailer was leaning heavily into the most overused plot trope ever of, it's not my dream, Dad, it's yours, with the most blazing and unapologetic line delivery of all time. And yes, Wade does say this. And yes, there is a little bit of that inheriting the family business debate in there, but this specific line, it's about the discrimination Ember had to face when she was a kid at that tourist attraction. There's a flower that can survive any climate, and yet no fire people are allowed to visit the grounds to see it. Before she can even perceive the realities of the world, she and her father succumb to being berated and kicked out, yelled at by the crowd to go back to Fireland in a way that would shape her understanding of this entire city. Yes! Wow, fantastic! This is a great representation of real issues collected in good storytelling. And none of it is in the trailer. Now, yes, that running the shop story beat is in there. Yes, it's a little generic and cliche, but this movie, I think, is aware of that and attempts to add their own spin on the matter. For a start, Ember doesn't immediately present herself as being uninterested in the business. In fact, the first 2/3 of the movie are spent chasing around the city in order to keep the business running, chasing after a water leak. Well, sure, the business duties have got high pressures, but it's something Ember too is incredibly passionate about and wants to succeed in. It's only way later into it as she sees more of the other side of life and discovers her glass sculpting abilities could lead to a new internship in another field like building architecture that she starts to see even the possibility to reject the norms of her life and begin to feel the caging of her existence for being placed on the pathway of family business and no way seemingly out.
Sorry.
But even then, it doesn't just end with an angry argument with the dad character about how it's not my dream, it's yours. I mean, she does say that line, although a little bit quiet, but his response is not the normal middle of the film anger, subverting it in a little way for a more satisfying and emotional ending. Though it is still all in there, so I can certainly see how it's a pitfall for the marketing team to fall into. It's still a cliche plot, even if it subverts towards the pacing and the ending. And the use of the elements work really well, from the handful of ways the elements do, in fact, mix and integrate. Though also, not a lot really is used for the cloud people or earth guys. Pruning, lightning anger, armpit flowers, and an air pocket underwater. That's about all I remember. Other than surviving car accidents, I guess? It's a shame. Would have loved to see more, but it was kind of far and few between for the others. But sometimes, these jokes were literally the worst parts of the movie. Thank goodness they got over representation in the trailer! There's a really nice recurring theme about parents, as one can imagine, but it goes beyond just Ember's father. There's her grandfather not giving his blessings to his son when he chooses to drop everything and head out to new lands. Or Wade's mother, who is endlessly supportive of him and always tearing up to make a more emotionally mature family set. Even smaller characters like Gale mention how the reason they are so into their sports experience is because she used to come here with her dad when she was younger. Like, aww. I get why that's a bit too niche to put in a trailer, but send over those vibes, please. You show us how this movie is going to go for tearjerker moments, and you're a surefire win, since that's what Pixar is known and praised for. Is basic and bland the brand image they want these days? They started a bit of the hot air balloon above the rooftops, but then skipped over the heart-to-heart immediately afterwards. But they kept in the pruning. Comedy. More understandable to skip this one, but there's a whole underwater segment with this beautiful music underneath that could have been so nice to include in some form, no matter how brief. Perfect spectacle bait. Missed.
Discover Disney and Pixar's Elemental.
Welcome to Element City.
There's lots of creativity and fantastic writing crammed into the production of this project, and it's such a shame it was snubbed out by whoever's in charge of first impressions. The best part of Pixar is always their endings and the immense emotional twists and turns they introduce in the final moments, and here it's much the same, with a Romeo and Juliet-esque conundrum of survival, and a callback that works so nicely to bring things together logically in this world. And a final beat that's not even about the romantic arc at the very start, but a far more impactful one, and a bit of a surprise all things considered. I pirated this movie because it simply wasn't accessible to me, but what I managed to observe in its slightly cursed manner is a hidden gem that absolutely deserves my actual money. So you can bet the moment this production is available publicly, I'll be rewatching this movie in cinemas officially, with a handful of friends on the side after I give out some recommendations of the good word. Hopefully over the next 2 weeks the marketing team can do a semblance of PR repair work. I haven't got my hopes up. It's a polished Pixar powerhouse, and though it's not the best they've ever made, it is leaps and leaps better than any of us could have expected. Turns out I shouldn't have been concerned about Pixar's Elemental. Pixar should have been concerned with their own marketing department. But hey, it could be worse. It could be DC right now. Now that's a movie I'll be actively pirating with no intentions to support financially. For now, I'd best head off to tell fellow Brits the good word of this movie. The trailers certainly aren't doing it. For now, my name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.
No. Inspect with your mouth. Ow.
But also, in all seriousness, I would seriously recommend like voting with your wallet. Like, it doesn't necessarily do wonders, but like, if more people did it, maybe more good things would happen. Screw Nestle, screw Urza Miller, and sure, screw Bethesda too. That one's not the biggest deal.